everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. How great is The Running Man? Give it up, everybody. My name is John Carroll with this podcast called Happy, Sad, Confused. I am so thrilled not only to be in my neighborhood theater, but to support this amazing film from the one and only Edgar Wright. This movie has everything. It's got Glen Powell in a bath towel. It's got Stephen King. It's got creepy Josh Brolin's teeth. And it has the direction of one of our favorites. Give it up for the one and only. We have Edgar Wright here, guys.
I love that there's a balcony in this one. It's great.
Oh, I didn't notice that. You're right. Happy, by the way, people of good taste, happy opening day, opening night for The Running Man.
It's very surreal. This is true. We only finished the film like less than a month ago. We only started filming November the 3rd, 2024. So it's kind of just completely. I've never done something that's been finished so close to release. So I sort of come into the cinema, I look at the poster, I said, oh yeah, we did that. Oh yes, this is a film that exists.
You're not allowed back in the edit room. It's done.
It's done. It's done. Thanks for coming out. I'm worried about you guys right at the front. Was that okay for you?
You were in the movie.
You were in the movie. You were on The Running Man.
So look, this movie is a hell of an accomplishment. It's a very ambitious film, to say the least. Probably your biggest film in many respects.
Yeah.
Hardest film to make thus far in the illustrious Edgar Wright canon, you feel? I mean, you did have that compressed timeline to go along with it.
I would say, when I say that, I don't mean it wasn't rushed or anything. It was just like it was ambitious. Like.
Microphone, mic.
Can you? It's back on. There we go. Yeah, definitely super ambitious. I mean, I think the most ambitious part of it was just the amount of locations. I think there's something like 165. You can hear me, right? Or
No.
You can, but they
Testing.
Hello, right? Yeah, there's something like 165 locations in the movie. And it wasn't just, obviously, Glen's story. There's all the other stuff as well, the adverts and the other game show and the reality show. And you know the bit with Daniel Ezra when he's playing the tape, the Apostle tape, you know, you had to shoot all the other clips with the other contestants, and like, it was just there's a lot of stuff. And so it was incredibly dense, and I think me and Glenn sometimes felt like we were on the show, like sort of just, but it was, I mean, it's funny, I'll say this, it's like, I read the book when I started reading Stephen King at exactly the right age, which is too young. And I read The Running Man when I was 14, and I'd actually read the book before I saw the 1987 version with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I was well aware when I saw the other version that I was like, oh, this is completely different. Like they, you know, if you've read the book and seen the other film, you know that they're two very different things. And you know, one of the key things that the three key things that I wanted to do in this was who Ben Richards was, that he's like an out-of-work dad, and that he goes to the network building out of his own choice, out of desperation, but it's his choice. Number two is that the entire thing is told from Ben's perspective, so you never have any scenes without Ben Richards. You only know what he knows. You can't see around the corner. He only knows what's going on with the rest of the game because of what's on the TV, but obviously that might all be bullshit. And then the third thing was like the gameplay is out in the world. Like you could leave the building and effectively just get anywhere, like it's hide and seek on a national global scale. And when I was a teenager, when I saw the Arnold Schwarzenegger one, which I enjoyed, I was a bit disappointed that the gameplay was more contained. It's just in an arena. But now, having done 165 locations,
Now you get it. Now you know how to do that.
I just want to say to the makers of the 1987 film, you guys were smart and sensible. So that was apart from the action, that was definitely the most exhausting part, was just the number of locations. And sometimes like 6 production meetings a day, and just getting everything.
Not to mention, I mean, you alluded to like all the stuff. I mean, this is a film that's going to reward second viewings, like all the stuff on the TVs that we're seeing kind of on the side and these little bits and bobs. It feels like you enjoyed shooting that stuff almost as much as like the main action, as it were, the side stories, the TV shows within the game.
Yeah, I mean, we did like, before the main shoot, we did like 3 pre-shoot days where we did sort of bits like that. And the first thing that we shot was the Americano, the reality show, where it was Debbie Mazar, like Kat Cohen, the amazing comedian, and Ella City, another amazing comedian. And me and Michael McCall had written like a couple of scenes, but of course they just fucking start improvising like motherfuckers. So that was like just that whole thing. That was like the first day of the shoot, like sort of just shooting, then doing like arguing in a fancy kind of like mansion. So yeah, but yeah, it was fun doing that stuff, and we had to do these things. You probably see in the movie what we call the hardest hits, where you see other deaths. Like when you're in Josh Brolin's reception and there's that video wall, and it kind of looks like a snuff movie version of Jackass, where there's just like death. We had to shoot like 34 different deaths. And it was sort of a thing where myself and the stunt team and my brother, we're all kind of just pitching death ideas. When you go to a location and we say, oh, we're in this farm, okay, so somebody could get thrown into this tree, and somebody else could get shot over here. So we're just constantly shooting. There's always like a B thing to do. We'll shoot the scene and then we'll go off a set camera, we'll set up this guy getting set on fire or this guy getting thrown out of the building. So I think on the Blu-ray, still do Blu-rays, there's going to be like just the death reel. It's great. It's like all 34 deaths in succession.
It's such a treat to see Glen in this front and center. I know he's been a fan of yours for a while. You were on his list, and he chased this. And it's a different side of Glen, though. I mean, like your point, he obviously can hold the screen, but you know, you set him up as like this is an angry fucking dude right from the start. Talk to me a little bit about, I don't know, playing to his strengths, his physicality, holding the screen, his charisma. What was it like to work with Glen on this?
I can't say enough nice things about Glen Powell. He's such an amazing person to work with, because these would seem like minimum requirements that you would expect out of the start, but believe me, that's not always goes to play. But like, he wants it to be as good as you do. Like he wants to be there. He's as hard as anybody else on the crew. He remembers all of the crew's names. Like sort of, and just like somebody who's there to kind of in it to win it, but it's going to work to 100% is like huge. And actually, this is absolutely true. I'd met Glen a couple of years ago, probably around the time the Top Gun Maverick came out, and we sort of connected. But this was kind of developing, but it wasn't starting to become a thing yet. It didn't really happen until the start of last year. And then, you know, because it's a movie of this scale, the studio do that thing where they say, these are the types of actors that we'd like you to consider. And there's like a list of big stars. And most of the people on the list, all great actors, you've seen in movies killing 100 bad guys already. So for me, that's something that kind of makes it less exciting, because if I've seen, you know, and Glen was the only person on the list that hadn't really done something like this. And I thought, he's like so the guy, and it was like, we just kind of like circled that name straight away, saying, Glen, that's perfect. If they let us have Glen, great. And then Glen, you know, actors don't usually reach out at that point. You don't hear from the other big stars. You might hear from their agents. But Glen texted me directly, and he said, hey, I don't know if this is true or not, I'm in the mix with The Running Man, but I promise you, if I get a chance to work on this film, you'll never work with an actor who works harder than me. And you know, and he was true to his word, you know. And then the thing about just, obviously Glen is so charming. I mean, who you see in interviews is who he is. So the idea of him playing the world's angriest man was like, I said to him, I need a bad mood Glen. I need you in it, because obviously the point of the character is that Ben Richards is so much like righteous fury. You know, he feels like he's being unfairly held back. He's been punished for sticking his neck out for others. And also he's got a great quality in terms of he tells people where to go and he stands up to bullies, but obviously in this cruel dystopia of, as Stephen King said, 2025. Did you guys know that the book was set in 2025? Yeah. How do you feel about it? So it's that thing like where obviously the reason, you know, he has this short fuse, he's gonna lose his temper, and that makes him unfortunately the candidate to be right now. He's like, as soon as he hits that booze in that scene where the guy in the registration booth is kind of passively aggressively winding him up, somebody upstairs is saying, this guy's a good TV.
my takeaway from the very beginning of your answer is that Simon Pegg doesn't remember any movies.
I think
Spread the
mine
word on
is
that.
I don't remember. And you know what? Glenn totally put me to shame the first time he came to set. He went around with like a good text and he shook everybody's hand. And I was like, man, you make me look like such a dick. He's a nice boy.
Some of the set pieces, and this is a rare opportunity. They've seen the film. Can you talk about a couple of the scenes, maybe? I mean, so I love you bringing back Michael Cera. You're like the only person that uses Michael Cera. That's the work when he's the comedian. You're like, no, I want him kicking ass in these like intense sequences. Talk to me a little bit about putting that whole sequence together, because that's one of the highlights of the film for me.
No, I think as soon as like Michael's name, I think Michael McCullough, I co-wrote the script with, also co-wrote Scott Pilgrim. So when Michael's name came to us to play that part, we were like, oh, that would be so great. And like, you know, I worked with Michael 15 years ago on Scott Pilgrim. He turned 21 on set on that movie, and you know, he's now a father of two. And it was just so great to just be on set with him. And I just like him and Glenn together are such an unlikely combo. And I don't know, I think my favorite thing in that part is when Glenn says, you know, like, if they find out that you helped me, the same goons that killed your dad will come for you too. And Michael just says, one can hope. And Glenn goes, huh? The door's closing. So you go, I think, bro, you know at that point that some shit's gonna go down. I mean, just watching Michael, like, I don't know, I watched Michael Cera jump through a wall any day of the week. It was just like a joy to do that sequence. So funny. Did you guys, because I've been in preview screenings, I only presume it was like that so that because everybody loves Michael Cera, but watching him get stabbed in the gut, people are like,
The validation, you've gotten validation not only with this audience, but of both Stephen King and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Which meant more to get the thumbs up from
don't
either of
make
them?
me choose in public. That's not fair.
But
I mean, Stephen King is the writer of the book. That's not fair. But I mean, listen. So Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was very early on that we had this idea in this alternate. We never say what year it is in the movie. We kind of thought it's a different tomorrow, like it's an sort of alternate universe 2025. And we thought, well, maybe in this alternate universe with new currency, maybe they changed the rules and people born outside the United States could run for president. So the former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, has had become president and is on the $100 bill. So obviously you have to get, I think that's a nice nod to the original film, and there's a few nods in there like the dances and the lift and stuff, but you have to get photo approval from Arnold, and then, and he gave us photo approval, which is very kind, and had no direct contact with him. But Glenn had been in Expendables 3, and was also friends with Patrick, and as we got closer to the shoot, Glenn said, do you think we should call Arnold? And I said, I've been thinking exactly the same thing. Because he's been so nice to us, and you know, it's just nice. It's a nice thing to do, and it's classy. And we've got to do it before we start shooting, because you can't do that retroactively and ask for their blessing after you get started. So one Saturday, Patrick Schwarzenegger like FaceTimed us, and then Patrick said, "I'm going to patch you in with Dad." And then me and Glenn are in my flat in London, and then you know Schwarzenegger sitting there with sunglasses on in a lounge chair, and the first thing he says. He knows Glenn, but he doesn't know me, and he says, he goes, oh, you have a gap in your teeth. I was like, I first thought, oh, Mr. Universe is picking on me. And then he said, when I first came to Hollywood, I had a gap in my teeth, and then later I got it fixed. And I said, I haven't had mine fixed yet. He goes, no, don't do it. The gap is good luck. When I got the gap fixed, my box office went down. I swear to God, that was the start of the conversation. And then he was really nice, just gave us his blessing, and you know, he actually said this in an interview as well, that like the 87 film was somewhat compromised. They fired the director, and it was a troubled production. And he did say that he thought that this would be the film of his that was Stan's remake. And obviously, it's an adaptation of the book. And then later, I don't know if you saw on the Instagram. But he watched the film in LA a couple of weeks ago, and we presented him with a massive version of the $100 bill. He kind of looked like a lottery winner. So it was enormous. It was so big that we thought we'd gift him like the big money.
probably trying to cash it right now. Do you do, briefly in our closing moments, do you do as good a Stephen King impression as an
I
Schwarzenegger?
love Stephen King, but I mean, you know, like I said, I started reading his books when I was like 12, and you know, so I had actually been in correspondence with him for a while because he had actually given us the press quote for Shaun of the Dead like 21 years ago. And more recently, after Baby Driver, we started emailing. But mostly we just talk about music. I would send him, he's a big rock fan, and I would send him bands, more contemporary bands I thought he might know on his birthday, send him rock albums. And as it came closer to the film happening, I hadn't talked to him about The Running Man because I didn't want to be like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, because it would have been too heartbreaking to start talking to him about it and then the film fall apart. So it was really close to sort of we're about to go, and he's an executive producer, so he has signed up on the adaptation. So me and Michael will have to send him the script, and like before he was a published writer, he was a high school English teacher, and obviously he wrote that amazing book on writing, and I was just thinking, oh, now we have to hand out homework to the most famous English teacher of all time. And so it was really nerve-wracking. And then he started sort of, he was reading it, and he started screen grabbing bits of the script and going, yes, great. And I was like, at a certain point my heart couldn't take it. I was like, please just read the whole thing. I can't. But he's been so generous, and I got to meet him in Maine. He loves the movie, he's seen the finished movie as well, of course, a couple times now. And I said I really wanted to go and meet him in Maine. And I mean, I told this story on Seth Mark, but I'll tell it again, it's actually true, is that I got to Bangor with my girlfriend, and the cab driver said, first time in Maine? And I was like, no, I've been to Portland, I've never been to Bangor. He goes, oh, if you haven't been in Bangor, I'll drive you past Stephen King's house. And I'm like, So I didn't want to tell this taxi driver that that's where we were going, because I've seen Misery. But I did. So in the movie, I mean, I presume there's some real King heads in here, right? There's quite a lot of Stephen King references. So in the locker room, when you go to the Network building and you see all the color-coded jumpsuits, all the other games, and the Running Man ones are like scarlet red, you know, what happens is the art department say, hey, we need a whole bunch of surnames to be on the lockers. So I thought, okay, all actors that have been in Stephen King films. So if you look in that shot, it's like Nicholson, Spacek, Freeman, Bates, you know, Walken, just like, and King, because Stephen King is in a bunch of them, most notably Creepshow, where he did that. So it's like a lime green jumpsuit for a show called Bug Out, which I absolutely would not want to be on, and it said King, and so I gifted him that jumpsuit, so he now owns that jumpsuit.
Just giving out jumpsuits, giant checks. You're such a generous filmmaker. Thank you for making this film for all of us. It's so great to see a packed theater, seeing something like this on the big screen. We need more of these films. Congratulations, please, guys. Spread the word.